IPMNation.com.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Welcome to All Natural Being. It's Brian. And whether you're listening live this morning, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern, or you're catching one of the rebroadcasts at 11 a.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, or you're listening in on iTunes or any of the other outlets that are now taking the show, thank you so very, very much for making us, we're going into the third, maybe almost into the fourth month now, in the number one slot, number one rated show here on IPM Nation, and I want to thank you very, very much for that. I also want to let you know that I truly am fired up. I mean, I wake up before the alarm goes off each day because I'm thrilled to be spending an hour with you, doing a show about you, reminding you, hoping to instill some thought-provoking vision so that when you look into the mirror, you spend a couple moments with your own reflection, you realize that you're not built for retreat. You're not built for calling it a draw. You're not built to take a back seat to anybody. You know, over the weekend, I was out and someone had recognized me from a poster that's up around town. They said, "Oh, are you that motivational speaker?" Perish the thought. So I figured it's probably a good time to mention, not a doctor, don't wear a stethoscope, not a psychiatrist, psychologist, a therapist, a licensed clinical anything, and I'm most certainly not a motivational speaker, self-help guru. I am, however, a fan of yours. I am on your side, even those times when, whether it's due to absent-mindedness or melancholy, I'm on your side, even when you're not, especially in those moments when you doubt, or moments, you could say, especially in those moments when you doubt who you truly are. Then I'm in your corner. I like to think of myself, well, I gotta take a quick sip here. Excuse me, a little bit of trouble with my lips this morning. I like to think of myself, it's like a pumice stone for all the exquisite nonsense, all the BS in your life. Like a big power washer for your complacency. You remember the Welsh philosopher, homeboy of mine, since everyone seems hell-bent now on telling you what continent they're from. Well, I'm from Wales, I guess, and my family was. Not that I have any say in the matter. Bertrand Russell once said that all of us, wherever we go, are encompassed by a cloud of comforting convictions which move with us like flies on a summer day. So again, I like to think of myself as a pumice stone, a philosophical loofah, some sandpaper that can help you remove all of the convictions that are holding you down, that are keeping you back. So my gig each and every day is to get you back to the root of who you are. Flat out, 100% utterly, impeccably you. And everyone will say, "Oh, well, that's, you mean back to my core, back to my pristine, back to my primal?" Absolutely. That's absolutely what I'm here to do. Because a lot of us are running around like those big sumo wrestlers. Or like, have you ever seen at a party they got those sumo wrestler suits that you could put on where you gain, I guess, like 300 pounds just putting on a suit, or at least that's the way you look. Then you bounce around. Well, I'm here to help strip away those effects. You see all these advertisements online now where, abs over 40, whatever the commercials are, but you see someone stand there and they hold up this big glob of yellow pudding looking like stuff, and it goes, "This is what 5 pounds of fat looks like." So then you can't help but look at those commercials and calculate in your head, oh great, I got like 85 of those on me, right? So you look at all this extra weight they want you to do. I don't know what they want you to do, but you're going to lose these 5-pound chunks. You ever wonder what that looks like philosophically? All the psycho fat and flab you and I carry around with us because of our convictions, because of our conditioning, because of all the shoulds and shouldn'ts. Was it B.F. Skinner that said that society moves in to attack the child while they're young and defenseless? All the shoulds and shouldn'ts that have been piled up on us so we can't even see our all-natural grain. We've got layers and layers of varnish and shellac and paint. What's my job? I like the idea of being an industrial belt sander. I'd be a jackhammer. Get in there and chunk away at some of those convictions that are keeping you in check. Help you peel away those layers of psycho fat and flab that are holding you down. That's what I do, and that's why I'm fired up about it. Monday through Friday, 5 days a week here on IPM Nation. And then you can pick up on the podcast or the iTunes, wherever else you want to go. But all those things holding you back. So please, no more motivational speakers. That's not what I like to do. I like to be, right, everyone, a rock, a pumice stone, so that you can kind of scrape away all those things that are preventing you from seeing the all-natural you. I'm interested in the answer that you offer to one very simple question. Who are you? An all-natural being is my opportunity to remind you of that power, to break your boundaries, to uncover and then explore the exotic within you. And we do that by pushing our mind's cognitive cutting edge, to forgo all the commonplace spiritual sabotage that leaves your soul on the sidelines, to remind you that at any moment, right now, done, you have the ability to demand the very best by deciding to be the very best version of yourself. Not the watered-down version, not the hurdling version. Oh, let me go over here, everyone else is. That's what I'll do. I'll go right over here. I'm here to remind you that you can choose the euphoric life anytime you like. Hands down, it's yours. When you tap into the truly unimaginable power of living in the present moment. And it's popular today. Everyone says, oh, you got to live in the now. Got to live in the moment. But how specifically do we do that? Of course we have to live in the now. Where do you think we're living? Well, you got to live in the now. Well, that's when my butt's in the chair. I'm pretty sure this is the now. But how specifically do we tap into that truly unimaginable power of living in the present moment? How do we do it? That's what we're all about here on All Natural Being, and that's what we're going to jumpstart today, this week. We got some thank yous to get out. We got a couple things to do before we do that. Let's also run over today's show. Of course, we'll kick around the anaerobic aphorism. Then we're going to jump into segment number 1, the labyrinth, or as I like to call it, our daily bread. If you borrow from Emerson, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Or Shakespeare might say, to thy own self be true. Billy Shakespeare, in case you haven't caught up with him in a while. To thy own self be true. We're going to look at that in segment 1. All right, segment 2. Happiness and the Promised Land. There's an old English saying. It says the promised land always lies on the other side of a wilderness. Did you ever wonder why that is? Got to get through the wilderness? Get to the promised land? Do you know why I think it is? Because you're never going to find happiness on a store-bought map. No one else can tell you. You're not going to find it. Here's some brochures, some nice glossy handouts. You're not going to get that. Oh, let me give you the 10 secrets. Trips. There's a Freudian slip. The 10 trips to happiness. I'm not going to find it on a store-bought map because it's in you. And the cool thing about it is it's always your call. You and I get to decide in every instant, are we going to show up or shut down to the nuts and bolts, the rough and tumble of the now. It's up to you and me. That's what we're going to cover in segment number 2. Segment number 3, I'm very excited about this. Matter of fact, I almost wanted to make this segment number 1, and we still may. Maybe we'll do that, segment number 1. I titled it Thick Skin for Survival, but the whole segment is based around an article. And based on this article, I'm suggesting you start acting like a flea. That's right, a flea. Oh, don't you mean, Brian, like a lion? Nope. Tiger? Nope. Bear? Nope. Panther? Nope. Of all the living things you could pick, you're telling me I should act like a flea? Yes. Yes, I am. So maybe we will do that. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll jump in. Maybe we'll make segment 3 segment number 1 because that's a good way to go. All right, let's do this real quick and we'll be right back. I'll take another sip of water.
IPMNation.com.
All right, let's do it. Let's make segment 3 number 1 just for the heck of it. It's Monday. We can relax, let our hair down a little. So I called it Thick Skin for Survival. And if you've listened to the show for a while, you know that I absolutely believe all you got to do is tune into the news. Look at all the craziness going on everywhere. That there are some of us running around with papier-mâché minds. Skin as thick as a croissant. With the backbone of a bowl of runny tapioca. And it made me think, runny tapioca. There's a German playwright, Bertolt Brecht. It said once that to live means to finesse the process to which one is subjugated. Well, you and I are here in the labyrinth. We're here in life. So what do we got to do to finesse the process that we're in the middle of? We're in a big bowl of vichyssoise, a big bowl of gazpacho. What do we got to do? So I came across this story. Let me pull this up. Came across this story that scientists now are having a blast. This is from Live Science contributor Stephanie Pappas. So I want to read a little bit of the article. Some of these names, there's just no way I'm going to get them right. So for all of you there waiting for me to pronounce the names correctly, good luck with this one. It says here, title of the article, Armor Up. Water fleas, remember I said I want you to be like a flea. Water fleas grow helmets and spines for battle. Water fleas prepare for battle by growing armor that's customized to their surroundings, new research finds. Now, tiny Daphnia, which is a species, develop impressive protective structures as they mature, according to the article, including pointy tail spines and tough helmets. Quote, now, researcher Linda Weiss of Ruhr University in Germany and her colleagues have found that neurotransmitters that help water fleas customize their bodies in response to cues in their watery environments. So in their labyrinths, they sense what's going on. And it says, hey, we need a spiny tail. We need some helmets. Let's go. Chop, chop. And these tiny little crustaceans, again, known as water fleas, small. But what do? They sense what's going on in their environment, and they develop an exoskeleton. Quote, they mold their bodies based on the chemicals they encounter in the water. The water fleas use appendages called antennules to detect scents and chemicals left by predators. Fish. I guess if you're into eating fleas, fish, I think that's cool on the menu. Or the upside-down swimming insects called backswimmers. Guess they like them too. And then, quote, they develop armored defenses in response to the threats that they're facing, or even that they expect to face. So in quoting the good doctor, the good researcher, these defenses are speculated to act like an anti-lock key system, which means they somehow interfere with the predator's feeding apparatus. Many freshwater fish can only eat small prey. So, for example, this particular flea grows a head and a spiny tail to make eating them more difficult. Weiss and her colleagues have found that intermediary steps that make this transformation occur in these fleas, the antennuals create brain signals, quote, when they detect chemical cues, which in turn cause the release of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine, in turn, causes the release of juvenile hormones that promote growth in particular body regions. Isn't that wild? So, they sense what's going on in their environment. They're in the labyrinth. They know what they need. And they think, I'm in the labyrinth. Maybe I need more than a papier-mâché mind. Skin as thick as a croissant. Maybe I need a backbone. More formidable, a little more girth to my spine than some pudding. You and I could do that. We absolutely could cultivate a thicker skin, a girthier spine, a true backbone. How do we do it? Don't act like a pincushion. Don't wait for people running around with their little pins to stick us. Oh, and this would be a great time. Again, apologies all around. Well, if you want to reach me, 331-684-7685. We're already getting texts. 331-684-SOUL. If you're interested, responding, letting me know about your thoughts. I suggest you should be like a flea. Let me know what you think. 331-684-7685, SOUL. Also, reach out. allnaturalbeing.com. Give me your email. I'll give you mine. We'll go from there. You can hit me up on Facebook, Brian Brawdy Official, or on Twitter, if you like. Twitter.com. They're all coming in now. Big new setup that we have here. So if you want to get a hold of me, send me a text. Send me something over on Facebook. We'll catch up. So, what do you think? You, me, acting like flea brains might not be a bad idea. Stop letting all the opinions of everyone else around us get in. Look at all the craziness going on in the world. Because we're so thin-skinned. I took in a brief show yesterday just because apparently I was in the mood to torture myself. I watched a brief news show yesterday that talked about how certain media outlets, not all of them, but certain media outlets were covering the events of last week, and that how, one of the announcers called for a more civil tone in discussing some of these things. And even in a piece discussing a more civil tone, the three people being interviewed are screaming at each other, interrupting each other, going off on each other. I got to tell you a little side note. Went for a long bike ride over Saturday and had a chance to bump into some people throughout the course of the ride. And I was really impressed how everyone's trying to get along. Really impressed. I think people could sense, not unlike the fleas, sense that we're in a tough time, and they go, hey, let's helmet up. Not to get into a fight, but just to protect ourselves from all the craziness. You could just sense when you would see someone, you'd meet someone, that everyone, at least us regular folks, are getting tired of being sucked in to this concept that we got to go to battle, that there's something wrong. I thought about the comments on Friday, the show that I did on Friday. And, other people now have come out and said, look, you can be pro-cop and pro-pigment of someone's skin. You can. You can be pro both. Pro any. Pro all. And when we have a thicker skin, where the color of the pigment doesn't matter, then everyone gets along great. But here's the scoop. The worst of humanity finds its way into every profession. Right? There are crappy doctors. There are crappy lawyers. Oh, I'm not supposed to say the word crappy. That was another critique. People didn't like the fact that I said the word crappy. So let me just say, there are crappy doctors. There are crappy real estate agents. There are crappy cops. The worst of humanity isn't, there are crappy protesters. There are crappy news reporters. Crappy newspaper journalists. But we don't get to taint entire groups of people. Small percentage of the population sucks. There's no way around it. Small percent. And a small percent of that population makes it in to every profession. Absolutely every profession. But that doesn't mean we throw out the entire group of people simply because of a few bad actors. It's not the way we do it. So even though we're being coached, we're being driven to get into this huge battle, you and I both know we're just not going to hang out with the crappy people. That when we work together, we don't have to buy into all this craziness. We don't have to do all the things that are going to hurt each other. We don't have to. Remember who we are, our all-natural being, outside of all the baggage, outside of all the fluff, all outside our sumo wrestler suits, outside of all that, who we are, our all-natural being. And the benefit to that, the reason to want to reconnect to that, is that when you do, that's when your life thrives. That's when you all these seconds, I want to be happy, I want to be fulfilled, I want to be content, I want to be all these other things. When we do that, when we reconnect to our all-natural being, easy gig. And that's what we should remember. So, be like a flea. No more papier-mâché minds. No more skin as thick as like a silk scarf. A backbone with a consistency of drool. No more. Like the flea, we can thicken our skin. Insults don't have to land. I've said countless times, there's a lot of people that don't like it. But only the offendable can be offended. If you're not offendable, you can't be offended. If you're offended, you're a tag team of two. You're a co-conspirator in the maligning of who you truly are. So enough. People say, oh, he said some horrible things, or she said some really nasty things, or all the rest of this. What does it matter? It doesn't get through to you unless you let it. Not happy with what someone says or does? Going to let it derail you? Then it's on you. We were down at the boys the other night. I wanted to see the trains passing by. So we're down in the village in the Northwest, whatever it is. Big freight trains are coming through. It's not like I could stand there a couple of yards from the freight train and scream at it and knock it off the tracks. No, it's impervious to me yelling at it. So we could be like fleas or a train. We just be, nope, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm up to. Here's what I'm all about. Scream all you want. Not going to derail me. So be a train. Be a flea. Armor up. Don't let anybody get through to you. And you're going to find you'll be so much happier once you do. So much happier once you do. We'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
Great question. How much longer you'll let them hijack your head and your heart? Which, now, let's make this segment 2. The labyrinth. Or as I like to refer to it, my daily bread. We mentioned Emerson in the open. Don't go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Remember from the legend of the Knights of the Round Table setting out in search of the Holy Grail, when they said they entered the forest where there was no track nor path, for to follow in the footsteps of another would have only brought them shame. Another line, they entered the forest where it was thickest and the way was lost. It does remind me of Billy Shakespeare, to thy own self be true. So when everyone's busy asking for their daily bread, the daily bread is the labyrinth. It is life at this moment. The marrow of blending your mind with this moment. The sap of your soul in this moment. The labyrinth is our daily bread. The waxing and waning, the lunging and lapsing, the ups and downs, the lefts and rights, the pivots and swerves. Never dead ends or blind alleys. Only cul-de-sacs, stacked on top of cul-de-sacs, encircling us. Where the beauty of a wrong turn lies in its promise of pointing in the right direction. What did the French philosopher Camus say? One recognizes one's course by discovering the paths that stray from it. There's no wrong turns. Wrong turn tells you the right way to go. So our daily bread is when we tap into the truly unimaginable power of living in this moment. We don't have to look outside of ourselves. We don't have to look outside of this moment in all of time. Get caught up with the carrots at the end of the stick. What can you do right now in this moment? We talk all the time about the best 20-second victories. Breathe in, exhale, scan the horizon, take action. If you've been working on this, thank you, Tammy. By the way, I'm just getting a note from Tammy. Thank you very much. If you've been working on this, by now you know you can start to feel it. That when you take a moment to build that ego shield, that flea helmet, though, I better be careful here. The spine, the spiny tail. When you do that, when you make yourself impervious, you trade a little bit of the porousness. So that's what you and I can do. Living in this moment. We don't let the opinions of other people affect us. What can you do right now to strengthen your ego shield? To be like a flea brain? What can you do? This morning's anaerobic aphorism. I think one of the things, I think we can replenish who we are on the inside, which kind of bolsters. It's like chi in Chinese martial arts. You have that chi, that energy pushes out. It becomes your shield. This morning's anaerobic aphorism. For minds and cell phones alike. You ever been to an airport, running around, your phone's about to die, you're looking for a power outlet? Ever been out somewhere? Get back to your car, go, oh man, I wish I had a converter. So your mind's just like your cell phone. It can be refreshed, especially in those moments when our batteries start to drain, when our batteries start to die. So how do we replenish? How do we refresh the energy of our own minds? Do it with the best acronym. Every inhale followed by an exhale to get rid of the gunk. Every moment we spend checking our six. Before we think, before we talk, before we take action, before we tap into our energy. That replenishes us from the inside out. No more baubles, no more bangles, no more widgets and whatnots. We can refresh our own minds. What's the power outlet? tapping into who you already are. Now, if you want to scale these, do a handful of 20-second victories back to back. Breathe in, exhale, scan the horizon, then think, then talk, then take action. Because when you do that, you're in charge. Your mind knows who works for who. And people say, oh, it's tough living in the moment. I got to know. I got to be able to see. The American author of Mignon McLaughlin, what did she say? Courage can't see around corners, but it goes around them anyways. You and I are built for going around corners. That's what we do. We may not be able to see. Everyone says, oh, I've got a clear vision of the future. Baloney. Thought I'd mess up there, did you? Baloney. Oh, I have a clear vision of the future. No, you don't. You may have courage. You may have conviction. You may know, hey, I'm going to handle whatever sits just around the corner. But you can't see it. You live in the moment. Take the labyrinth. The daily bread. At least it's been in my life. That's the breakthrough. Everyone's looking for a breakthrough. That's the breakthrough. When you realize that the labyrinth is your daily bread, that everything you need is given to you right now, that everything you've ever wanted, you've always had. Just this side of the Meshuggah. Just this side of all the rhetoric that keeps you wanting, keeps you longing, keeps you hoping and praying and stalking some future sense of self. When we live in the labyrinth, when they say know thyself, Oracle of Delphi, know thyself, we can't find ourselves outside of the labyrinth, outside of this moment. When we tap our courage to see around the corners, whatever it holds, we know. Whatever we're going to do, we see ourselves thriving. Just around the corner, whatever it holds, we're in. Full on. We're not going to cower in the corner. We're not going to sit. We're not going to go, oh, that's not what I had planned. It takes courage. What we say, come into the moment, come in hot, light it up, left over from law enforcement, kick in some doors. When we throw ourselves open to the dance of chance, what was it, 19th century French novelist, Theo Gautier. Chance is the pseudonym of God when he did not want to sign. Chance, fingerprints of providence, daily bread. Those occurrences that go down in this instant, this sliver, this tiny fraction in all of time. That's your telegraph. And for those of us that want to become detectives, for those of us that truly do have the courage to go around the corner blind, that's when the divine is there. However you decode, decipher, define it. Big bang, big breath, don't care. You should, I don't. Because it's personal to you. It's in your own heart. You decide how to define the divine. But know that in the labyrinth, the daily bread is there. It is the daily bread. It is that chance where God, however you define it, him, her, it, other. Because look, even if you're an atheist, God love you, this still works. The divine could absolutely be spelled out scientifically for you. It's still going to work this way. The moment unfolds when you decide to show up and not shut down. It unfolds in that moment when you decide, I'm going to be 100%, flat out, utterly, impeccably me. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to follow Shakespeare's advice. I'm not going to worry about the hairpin turns, because it's the hairpin turns in the labyrinth that bring us to life. And that's what we're going to do. Chance is the pseudonym of God when he did not want to sign. How many examples do you have in your life? Those synchronicities, serendipities, chance occurrences, epiphanies. Any of the things where you go, how is that possible? Now, maybe sometimes if we go back to Camus in segment 1, some of the epiphanies may be the paths that we strayed on. Because if we stray, people go, well, I don't know how to get over all the negative things that have happened to me in the past. Well, you can stop looking at them as negative. People go, oh, there's some things that are just too traumatic. Well, I have to tell you, I've been a spiritual survival expert long before I was an outdoor survival expert. I've been a spiritual survival expert since before I even knew what it was like to be the oldest son of an alcoholic father. Before I even knew what it was like in an attempt to counsel me for what that upbringing was like, they subject me to playing slap and tickle with a priest. I've been a spiritual survival expert for a long time. And what we can do, what you and I can do right now is realize there are some things that just can't touch our spirit. Some things that just can't touch our soul. We're bulletproof. We're impregnable. Can't get through. We're not pincushions. Not going to happen. Now, the ego wants to find all the things to be affronted by, to be offended by. Oh, can you believe he or she said this or that? Oh, I was horrified. I was traumatized. I was embarrassed. I was maligned. You can't be maligned. Can't be maligned unless you're a co-conspirator. So think about it for a moment. When you're 100% impeccably, utterly you, opinions of other people don't get to scratch you. They don't get to hurt. They don't get to hit. They never do. All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
Never, ever, ever, ever too late to take your life back. So let's move to what would now be segment 3. And I called it Happiness and the Promised Land. And I thought to myself, you know, there's that English saying that we mentioned in the beginning that a promised land always lies on the other side of a wilderness. Why is that? And if you've been listening, you know, because I believe you're going to never find happiness on someone else's GPS, on a store-bought map. No one else gets to tell you. It's on you. It's your call. You show up or shut down. The nuts and bolts, the rough and tumble of the now, the thrill of this life. When you show up and go, give me another helping of that. When you challenge yourself, when you're waiting for chance, whoever signed for it. When you're waiting for what's just around the corner, you come to life. Your brain certainly comes to life. Your mind certainly comes to life. Not going to do it with someone else. Oh, here's a directional. Let me give you a map of the stars of Holmes. Got to do it on your own. You got to figure it out in the minute. With a vision built for the next turn. The pivots, the swerves. What do I say all the time? The lunges and lapses, the ups and downs, the lefts and rights, whatever the hodgepodge holds. That's how we keep our head in the game. It was a great article. Let me pull it up here from New York Times. When they're talking about the effectiveness of brain fitness. And everyone's saying, look, if you do all these brain games, you really get really good at brain games. But countless studies now have shown, it's not going to make any. It's not going to make your brain any healthier in the future unless you're judging yourself on how great you were at those games. But I found this article. It's a long one, so I just want to get to the point where I thought it could be of help for us, at least in the context of this conversation. Finding new ways to challenge yourself every day is a great idea. This can include lots of ordinary activities, like doing mental calculations rather than reaching for a calculator, or taking a new driving route, or eating with the opposite hand, according to one of the authors of this article. Quote, "It goes against what we've gotten used to doing," he said. "But you must continue doing these exercises seamlessly. And when you do, they will increase brain neuroplasticity." Wendy Suzuki, professor of neuroscience and psychology at New York University, says pretty much the same thing. Quote, "Every time you learn something new, the brain changes, i.e., or end quote, then i.e., every time you learn something new, every time you spend an instant in the labyrinth, handling the pivots and swerves, adopting the metaphor, the mindset, that shift happens. Every time you do that, your brain changes." She goes on to say, quote, "And the most lasting physical changes come from psychical exercise." So what we think, how we mold our thoughts, that's what changes our brain. So when we think of like checking our pulse, having a checkup, then we should base our checkup on how many new frontiers we had in the last 20 minutes. New frontiers. Cognitive cutting edge. How are we pushing the envelope right now? What are we doing to make sure we're on top of it all? Maybe you take up a new language, a new art, new skill. Do something different. And when you do it, the benefit is going to be profound, because that's what the brain does. So we don't always have to look at studies like this where we say, okay, great. What's it do to prevent Alzheimer's or prevent dementia? Because if it's good at that stage of our life, it's great at this stage of our life. What can we do right now? Do something different. Think you're going to go left? Go right. Think you want to sit? Stand up. Do it differently, and your mind, your brain will thank you for it. Here's another article that I want to share with you, a little bit outside of this context, but I just found it fascinating. We talked before about spending some time looking at yourself in the mirror, and this article coming from M2, the magazine, 14 ways someone might fall in love with you, according to the latest psychological studies. Well, there's all different kinds of ways. We don't have to go through them all, but this one is what caught my eye, and I want to share it with you. Okay, here we go. You scroll down through the article. Now, this is according to the University of Massachusetts psychologist Joan Kellerman. She has 72 random pairs of undergraduates. They had to do this for 2 minutes. You ready? What'd they do? Take a guess. What do you think they did? Stared into each other's eyes. Then it quoted Scientific American that says, quote, "They later reported they had increased feelings of passionate love and affection towards the other person. This suggests that long periods of eye contact can connect you to someone and even ignite feelings of love inside of you for that person, even if you had never previously met." End quote. 72 random pairs of undergraduates stare into each other's eyes. 2 minutes. You and I have talked before. What if you were to take a couple minutes? What if you were to take a 20-minute victory? And if you want to do it for 20 minutes, maybe let's do a 20-second victory of looking at your own reflection in the mirror. Really looking into your own eyes. And when the ego says, "Oh, I've got to look away," or the ego goes, "Let me focus on that hair lip you got there, Brian." Right? Or the ego does anything else it can to distract you. What if you stare and look into your own eye? You can blink if you like every few nanoseconds or however long. But what if you were to stand for 2 minutes? We've done this before. Stand and look in your own eyes. Your own eyes. Everyone is saying, "Oh, I need a selfie. Let me put a selfie of myself up. Let me take a picture of myself. Because everyone on the internet wants a new picture of me. Of course they do. They're waiting for it. They're refreshing every 10 seconds. Oh, don't let me forget. I want to talk about being at the park, being at the river the other day. But instead of being worried so much about your selfie, how about if you look yourself? That should be the real selfie. You look yourself in your own eye. 2 minutes. What are the chances that some of that, in this study, you have affection, a sense of passion towards the other person? What if you did it for yourself? It's not going to kill you. If you go up to the mirror and you look into your own eyes, 2 minutes, set a timer. If you look at yourself, 2 minutes, your own eyes, chances are pretty good you might come away with that same understanding. Maybe you're going to be looking into someone you've never previously met before. Your all-natural being. Maybe in 2 minutes you can see through the baggage. Maybe in 2 minutes, 120 seconds, you can see through all the conditioning, all the cultural baggage, all the exquisite nonsense that I hope to remove by being that pumice stone in your life. Yeah, I don't mind. I really don't. Or, you know, like you have one of those welcome mats at your front door that they've got like some of that thick, really sturdy grass that you can scrape your feet against and it knocks off all the dirt. Think of me as that welcome mat. I'm good with that. Think of me as that pumice stone. That sand blaster. I'm all over it. Belt sander, jackhammer, philosophical loofah. I'm good with that. Because I'm absolutely convinced that your all-natural being is where it's at. That's when you come to life. And what if staring at yourself for 2 minutes in the mirror? 2 minutes. What if you could reconnect with that all-natural being? Because I'm confident if they go through the deeper part of the studies done by Joan Kellerman, that they're going to find you recognize that underlying connection. You see past all the hysteria. You see past all the conditioning. Who was it that said that eyes are the window to the soul? Maybe that's so. And maybe one way to find the person, your soulmate, the person, what's the article say? Find someone, 14 ways someone might fall in love with you. This might be an opportunity to fall in love with the all-natural being, your true self. Won't kill you. You're busy doing everything for everybody else. You can be a little bit, how about a little spiritual narcissism, a dose of it, just to remember who you are. Enough selfies. Stare at yourself in the mirror. And if you want to put up a selfie, I'm fascinated with this. You ever notice the people that take selfies and the camera blocks their face? They want you to see what they're wearing or how their body's built or whatever else. Blocks their face. Their face from the selfie. So they're taking a selfie of a cell phone with collarbones, stomachs, and legs. Good golly. Which reminds me of being at the river the other day. I said I want to talk about that. All right, let's do this real quick. We're going to run to a quick break. We'll be right back.
No self-help industry tactics here. You're listening to The Real Deal. Brian Brawdy with All Natural Being on IPM Nation.
All right, I've come up with my another one of my self-help industry tactics. I love that acronym, self-help industry tactics. More of their baloney. That said, I think I have a tactic that may help us in the future. The other day, the family and I were down to the river playing, looking for turtles, throwing rocks, checking out the birds and everything else. So it was a nice evening. And honest to goodness, probably 50, maybe 60, maybe 75. Whatever the number is, I'm sure it was higher when the hour was done. But the number of people, even groups of people, like, look, you're hanging out down on a park bench at the river, and you think, oh, I better check and make sure what time dinner's ready. You could see someone looking down at their phone and going, okay, let me check, see if I got a text. Maybe I'm supposed to pick up some bread, bring some milk home, for dinner. Whatever. I guess you could kind of forgive that. But honest to goodness, I even saw a group of 6 guys, teenage guys, walking down the path on the river. Each and every one of them looking down at their cell phones. And in some cases, it was like, you see the birds all take off in mass, or bees swarm, or bugs, or synchronized swimming of dolphins. That's how these guys move through the crowd. They never looked up from their phone. So Ashley and I started pointing it out to each other. Well, look at those three. Look at these two. The number of parents there allegedly to, quote, play with their kids. Their kids are running around crazed, and they're sitting there on the bench on their cell phones. I've asked before, Kelly's quote, what if being human was a choice? We've got an entire generation of cyborgs running around, zombies. No, they may not be the flesh-eating kind, but I easily saw 50 people on the river on their cell phones. Smartphones, well, that should just go now. And I love the idea of the word cell, because they are imprisoning themselves. I can't look at the word cell, L-L, with the two L's now thinking those are the bars. They're not enjoying the moment. They're on their cell phones. And there's a bunch of different ages. Not so much people my age or older. Us middle-agers. And the people run around, oh, I'm having a quarter-life crisis. Oh, really? And then how about throwing the phone in the river? Jackass. They run around going, oh, I don't know. I don't think I could give up my phone. Talk about being disconnected from the truly unimaginable power of living in the present moment. Now, if you have children, imagine, or loved ones, extended family and friends, maybe this is a great thing to teach them. Sit down your phones every so often. Enjoy where you are. I mean, it was unbelievable to me. I guess I don't make it that time of day to the river very often where everyone's running around with their cell phones, but the number of people looking down, disconnected from where they were in the moment, I will tell you, their brain is wiring itself to be connected to the phone. I'm sick of mine. Oh, that said, though, if you want to text me at 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL, S-O-U-L, not the S-O-L-E like your shoe, S-O-U-L, 331-684-SOUL, send me a text. Maybe that's what we can do, the good for the future. Focus on ourselves, and then when we have an opportunity, say to the young people or other people around us, you'll live if you're not on the phone. I refuse to have a conversation anymore with someone on the phone. I just do. I walk up, you're on the phone, I don't say anything till the phone goes down. If you walked up to me, I would put the phone down. We'll create an entire generation of people that can't even talk to each other. I saw 3 occasions, Saturday night, on the river, couples, guy and a girl sitting next to each other on a park bench. Guess what they're doing? Checking Facebook or Twitter or whatever they're doing. I can't wait to get the perfect selfie instead of living in the moment. Can't wait to get the perfect selfie to put up so people can see I'm here or I'm there. And then people wonder why they're sad. People wonder why they're depressed. Come up with all these one-liners. Oh, life is just so tough. Well, sit down the phone. Enjoy your life. And all I could think of as I sat there, what would happen if there was an extended power outage where people couldn't recharge their phones? Now, you could be like me. You could have, you could have battery backups. You could have all these other things. But just imagine, you don't have solar power. You don't have wind power. You don't have any other ways to recharge your batteries. Power goes out for like a week. What are these people going to do without a cell phone, without an internet? What are they going to do? They're going to be lost. Literally lost. So for you and I, we could spend a few more moments in the now. Maybe we can kind of turn the tide. Right? Because if all we're doing is teaching our mind to read a phone, that's not going to cause any new neural pathways. At least in the form that we're going to want. So when it comes to to spiritual survival, when it comes to happiness and the promised land. It's right here, right now. It's not digital. It's directly beneath our feet. We talk all the time. Gratitude is the grease of the human mind. If we say thank you right now for where we are, that's the open power outlet. That's the juice we need. When we say thank you, it's like plugging in right before our battery dies. We say thank you because subconsciously, and there are doctors now that say 95% of everything the brain does, 95% of everything the mind does, it does subconsciously. So technically, we really are fairly courageous. We can't see around the corner. We can't see into the subconscious, but we move forward anyways. We throw ourselves into the labyrinth. Our daily bread. This is it. And when we do that, when you tap into your all-natural being, that's the superhuman powers. You want to look at all the people around you that are successful and happy? It's because they've tapped into their superhuman status. They channel their all-natural being. And I know it's in you. If you're listening, if you're alive, whether you're listening or not, if you're alive, it's still in you. Just because it's dormant doesn't mean it's dead. Just because it's atrophied doesn't mean it's deceased. You can spark this anytime, in any moment. Every chance is a great second chance to remember who you ultimately are. And that's the life you deserve. And when we sit down the cell phones, we take a moment to look ourselves in our own eyes, to survey our own heart, to make sure it's dovetailing with our head. When we lose all the baggage, the philosophical loofah, the pumice stone, the power washing, when we scrape away all the plaque, when we squeegee away all the dirt, Huxley's quote, when the doors of perceptions are cleansed, right? When we cleanse our doors of perception, both inwardly and outwardly, then life is a fantastic gig. No reason to fight, no reason to hate each other, no reason to brawl in the streets. Because you know what? Could have been that you didn't have a life. So maybe we spend more time staring in the mirror, 2 minutes. Remember who we ultimately are. Be thankful for that person. Be thankful for our daily bread given to us, supplied by us, nurtured by us in the labyrinth. Then you're gonna come out of it with a smile on your face. You're gonna go, what am I smiling about? What am I smiling about? You'll catch yourself just happy. How great would that be? If the biggest concern you have is the number of times throughout the day you catch yourself happy. All right, hour's almost done. Gotta run. Don't forget, allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me an email. I'll leave you mine. We've got webinars coming. We're starting finally, right? After all this time, we're starting the videos next week. We've got a bunch of cool stuff coming, including live Facebook videos. We'll be doing that as well. So, in the interim, till I talk to you tomorrow, or whatever time you're listening, till I talk to you again next, remember who you ultimately are. Not the normalcy that's watered you down, but who you ultimately are. And once you do that, once you reconnect with your core, your primal revival, once you do that, then you will be catching yourself smiling and going, you know what? This is a pretty great gig. Between now and then, let's find that cool place in each other so we don't have to worry about brawling, beating each other up. Or we could be like Flea Brains, don't forget. Build a thicker skin, tougher shell. Don't let anybody get you. If it's good enough for fleas, it should be good enough for you and me. All right. Looking forward to hanging out with you again. Don't forget, allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me an email. I'll leave you mine. All right. We're out. Have a fantastic day.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
IPMNation.com.